This is a Hot Pie Media original.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. H-E-L-P. Help. BetterHelp. Now, is there something that's interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Everybody who listens to Stop Self-Sabotage has something that they want for themselves that they are not getting because they feel that they're frustrated or they wouldn't be listening. They want more. And personally, when I first became a therapist, I went into therapy because I was so hurt in an emotional relationship and I wanted to repair that. And BetterHelp is a place that you can do just that for yourself. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's a professional therapy done securely online. There's a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your therapist. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. So you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change therapists as needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. One of them is, Anthony wrote, "Karen is great. She's attentive, gives great advice, and really makes you think about your issues so you can resolve them in a fashion where you are comfortable." Visit betterhelp.com/SSS. That's better, HELP, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp, they are now recruiting additional therapists in all 50 states. We have a special offer for you. For Stop Self-Sabotage listeners, you get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/SSS. As a therapist myself, I can't recommend them more sincerely. Go online, talk to them. They will be very attentive to your needs and they will get you the help you want. Hello, Vince. We are with Vince Poscente. Hi. And Vince and I have known each other for, don't even want to say.
I don't. It's been a while. We're talking decades.
We're talking decades. Yeah. When we were both, when you were a different color and I was too, but I'm still that color now because of modern technology. So you have been an extraordinary speaker. I've heard you speak. You are so good, and you have had a fascinating life. And I want everyone to hear about your first book about getting to the Olympics. Tell us a little bit about how that all came to be.
Yeah, so that's kind of what put me on the speaking circuit, if you will. If there isn't a circuit, by the way, but anyway, we call it the circuit. And the fact is, I went from recreational skier to the Olympic Games in 4 years. And as that story unfolds, it really is about setting some extraordinary goals and how to get there. And I know you're all about self-sabotage. It's in a lot of ways getting out of your own way, which is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways. In fact, I sat in a speech by Dr. Lee Poulos. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, I do. Out of Vancouver.
He's still kicking around. He might be 90 years old right now.
Yeah. Peter Thomas's friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Out of Vancouver. So he said in a second of time, the conscious mind processes with 2,000 neurons, while in the same second, your subconscious mind is processing with 4 billion neurons with a B. So, wow. Consciously, your listeners, your viewers are paying attention to this. They might be intrigued. They might be thinking, man, that guy looks like the old man from Up. Whatever they're thinking. Right? With their conscious mind is 2,000 neurons. but in the same second, 4 billion neurons subconsciously below consciousness. And so the ratio between the conscious and subconscious mind is the exact same ratio between an ant and an elephant. And that's the book you're referring to. I wrote a book called The Ant and the Elephant, a parable about how the ant first doesn't realize he's on the back of the elephant. Then he goes, wait a minute, I'm not going to get to the oasis unless I talk the elephant into getting there, the subconscious mind. And so the ant and the elephant have to align. And the misalignment is that self-sabotage. The misalignment is all sorts of patterns that are below the surface. But to your question, recreational skier to the Olympic Games, the conscious mind could go, how is that possible?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But
Which is, I think, everybody,
mind.
I think is what everybody does when you say that. I mean, there's a part of me that goes, how in the world? Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I'm human. I had the same thoughts. Like, how in the world is this going to happen? But I actually called it the Yahoo theory. And the Yahoo theory is if that Yahoo can do it, so can I.
I love that.
And so I raced in luge for a couple of years. You know, luge, the one man sled where you lay on your back, screaming the whole thing. Kind of like bobsled, but on a sled.
Right.
And so I had raced in luge, but quit. And at the opening ceremonies of the Olympics in Calgary, watched some of my buddies marching in those opening ceremonies while I was in the stands with a ticket. And there's evidence right there that we often don't make decisions. Let me put it this, aspirational. The aspirational notion of getting to the Olympic Games is one thing, but the big motivator was never feeling that feeling of regret again. That sting of regret at the opening ceremonies, looking at that ticket going, I'll never know. I'll never know if I could have gotten to the Olympic Games in luge. And so, this mental training, aligning the ant and the elephant. I spent over 2 hours a day mental training, things like biofeedback and sensory deprivation float tanks. And there was a competitive philosophy that you may be interested in. It was because what everybody does is they identify who their competition is, and they want to do what the competition is not doing. I got to do what the competition's not doing. The distinct advantage came from changing that mindset to do what the competition is not willing to do. And the question is, what's the competition not willing to do? Well, look in the self-honesty mirror, and it's typically those are the things you're not willing to do either. This opportunity to not working harder necessarily, but working smarter was definitely the key.
Right. And when you were I'm just fascinated. When you were in the sensory deprivation tank, were you visualizing, were you affirming, or were you just floating?
Yeah, no, it was guided. In fact, there's this domino effect from do what the competition's not willing to do. So one of those was I was going to the library and I found an audio hypnosis album called Skiing with the Wind, the album, but it was an audio program. And I then realized that it wasn't specific to my sport of speed skiing, because I've skied at 135 miles an hour down a mountain, like 217 kilometers an hour down a mountain. And so at that high speed, you have to be really dialed in. And so mental training through hypnosis, I thought, well, I'll change the script. I changed the script, had an audio hypnosis script that my mom read on an audio program.
Interesting.
I had her voice in this. And then I took the audio hypnosis album and audio and put it, recording in the, played it back in the speakers, underwater speakers in this sensory deprivation float tank. So I had hypnosis overlapped with a sensory deprivation float tank. How many of my competition were doing that, right? None.
Yeah.
They were going to the coach and say, what do I do next? So the more there's a motto in the Olympic Games. It's Latin for Citius, Altius, Fortius, which is swifter, higher, stronger. I added a fourth one, which was Smartius. Right? How much smarter can you compete? And so it isn't necessarily about that. And so I've done that with the speaking business. I've done that with the writing books, and they've resulted in the Hall of Fame or New York Times bestsellers, not because I'm any more proficient at this. It's just if you approach it with a smarter mentality of what the competition, the highest performers aren't willing to do, research and innovation and just coming at it from a different angle, it supersedes any kind of self-sabotage that could go along the way, because, but we're human. We slip. We all of a sudden go, well, maybe I've lost it. Maybe I don't have it anymore. And so
we doubt. Yeah. But what I love about what you said about the sensory deprivation tank is that you had your mother's voice.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about the subconscious, you're also talking about something you've taken in utero and every, for your whole life. And to have mom telling you you can do it is such a wonderful, nurturing, maybe even corrective statements, whatever. I mean, that's the right way to do it for sure.
It was just an innovation. It's like these tweaks that we can do along the way. And that was one of them. I thought, who better?
Yeah, exactly.
And here's a fact. You'll gravitate towards your current dominant thought. So my question for everybody is, are you the architect for your dominant thought, right? Mm-hmm. Are you putting those things in place? And here's a little hack that I used along the way. This is my cell phone. And I would put gold dots all over the place. And these gold dots would represent, in the case of the Olympics, my dominant thought was I'm the fastest in Canada, top 10 in the world. Because there's Olympic qualifying standards in Canada. At the time when I was training, I was thinking, well, I just knew that in order to make the Canadian Olympic team, you had to be top 16 in the world. So I said, okay, why not aim for top 10? Because top 16, what if I 17th, right? You're 17th, you don't go. And the fastest in fastest in Canada came from an interview with a guy who had a PhD in politics and sport. And he said, if you are number one in the nation, you will not be subject to anybody else's agenda. If you're second place or lower, somebody will have it in for you. Somebody will try to take you down. But if you're number one, you can kind of write your own ticket of how you approach this. And that's what I absolutely needed, because I came out of nowhere and I had to be able to not have any side effects from enemies or people trying to take you down, because, it's a competitive landscape. And so anyway, I'm the fastest speaker in Canada, top 10 in the world. And that gold dot was a trigger for an emotional buzz. And the emotional buzz is a thought that creates a physical reaction. This visceral notion of marching in the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games was not only aspirational, like how awesome would that feel? That's an emotional buzz.
Sure.
But also the anxiety attached to that. I don't know if this can work and if I can make this happen. And
one of the things I like about motivation, and one of the definitions, is that it's the push to discomfort and the pull of hope in balance. So you had to have enough discomfort, which you'd had because you were a recreational skier and you were going to the Olympics, and enough hope that you could reach it. And if you're in balance with that, you're motivated. If you have too much discomfort, too much discomfort, too little hope, not motivated. Too much hope, too little discomfort, not motivated.
Right.
So you have to have it in balance.
Oh, I love that, Pat. Wow. I just got my money's worth and I'm the guest.
Well, we aim to please here. Okay.
Thank you.
So you did it. You went to the Olympics. Tell us what happened.
Well, I didn't win in the Olympic Games. And my exit strategy was to win, to be top 10 in the world was the first goal. But after that came true a year before the Olympic Games, I went, wait, I could win this. Wait, if I win it, I'm a gold medalist. Wait, I could be on the speaking circuit. Wait, I would love that, right? And so that then became my new goal dot was I'm the fastest speaker in the world and the Olympic champion. Uh-huh. Well, in the final run of the Olympic Games, I hit a bump, dropped down to 15th place and no second chance. And bounced around for 18 months. In fact, it was as close to depression I just didn't even know what that feeling was, right? It was like, what is this feeling of uncertainty and feeling down and looking in the mirror and seeing less than and all that? I was really kind of torn up.
Yeah.
But
that happens, as we know.
Yeah, to everybody, anybody. I mean, mental health has been taking such a center stage lately, and I'm glad, because we're all human, and to go through that 18 months was tough. But here's a fact: a good idea won't go away, and I kept thinking, well, maybe there is a way. And so now, since then, I started to do what the competition's not willing to do. Went to the National Speakers Association convention, looked at 2,000 speakers and went, all right, competition, game on, here we go. And so ended up crafting a message around this journey of integrity, if you will, how to engage the emotional buzz, the gold dot, all these tools I used as an athlete that applied to the sales landscape and the leadership world.
Sure.
And then, so rock and roll. There's speaking, ended up being inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame. I think you knew that.
I did. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's rarefied air. Yes.
And I'm not dead.
I can tell that.
They got Ronald Reagan and Og Mandino and Jim Rohn, rest in peace. But to be inducted at such a young age was just, it's just testimony that you can dial in. But 2008, that was another hit. And then this freaking pandemic.
Another bump in the downhill run. Yeah. Yeah. And so, as you know, I know 2008, 2009, the first thing to go are speakers, right?
Yeah.
Conventions don't need you.
Right.
And of course, the pandemic, they didn't have any conventions. They got rid of everybody then.
Right.
So how did you recover from that?
Well, that was a good question, because I wrote the book, The Ant and the Elephant, and here's something I didn't know until those setbacks, was what got you here isn't necessarily going to get you there. And I had personally every reason to believe that I could get through any kind of setback or devastation. And it was just confounding. It took me years to start to figure this out. And when I figured it out, I wrote the book, The Earthquake, which is a sequel to The Ant and the Elephant, because, this formula that I used in The Ant and the Elephant can help an entrepreneur, a salesperson, a leader, really develop their team and get them moving forward and exceed their own expectations. But this formula of The Ant and the Elephant didn't work to get out of a personal earthquake. In my case, it was financial.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And it really was a formula that started with what I call grasp the contradiction. The contradiction was that I had, on one hand, it's like two people driving a vehicle holding onto the steering wheel, and there's two steering wheels. And you'll never get there. You'll never get the vehicle to align with both people hanging on to the steering wheel. And in this case, it's the conscious and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is going, I've been here before. I know how to get through this, what I just said. The subconscious mind is got all sorts of dialogue going on, and it's subconscious. And it could be driving in a different direction. And to grasp the contradiction between the conscious and subconscious mind, that you truly don't have control of this vehicle. With that misalignment, it really takes us sideways and hither and yon, because we can't seem to get on track. And that's what I experienced personally, and what anybody experiences going through a massive earthquake with bankruptcy or divorce or cancer or something so devastating that it puts you in the place of being stuck. And that first step is to grasp this contradiction, because it's only then, when you let go of the steering wheel, that you can seek the alignment, and this alignment of the conscious and subconscious mind.
And how for the listeners and viewers, how did you do that?
Well, I first had to learn this word called patience.
Ooh.
To have
Don't say those kind of words.
Yeah.
Wash your
Patience.
mouth out.
Yeah, it's just as cerebral and as rational as I can say the word. I'm still going, what is this word? I mean, it's just this ability, the trite way to say it is letting go. It supersedes that. It's much more of an alignment between feeling, letting go of those self-destructive notions, right?
Self-sabotaging thoughts.
And
Yeah.
self-sabotaging. That letting go of that kind of stuff is easy to say, but it's subconscious, right? How do you let go of what's subconscious?
Well,
And so,
yeah, I have some thoughts on that too. So go ahead.
well, yeah, it just took time. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because there isn't, I call it in the book, The Earthquake, I call it the solution loop. In fact, the opening line of the book is, there's no linear way out of chaos.
That's a great line. Great
And
line.
effectively, you asking, well, how did you get through that chaos?
Mhm.
I can't answer it, because it's a nonlinear answer.
Yeah.
But it does start with grasping the contradiction of the conscious and subconscious mind, then seeking the alignment, and then switching into a mode of staying curious. Just so curious. Is this possible? Is this possible? There's an infinite number of possibilities. And then the next in this loop, this solution loop, is to get real creative. How creative could I be with this as a potential way out of this?
Mhm.
And so along the way, I was going, well, the speaking business, it's not a business, it's a practice. I mean, I don't make money unless the economy is rocking and rolling. So that's ridiculous. I mean, yes, it's lucrative, but only lucrative for periods of time.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so I started a company called Radical Safety, right? So does this work? Does this work? Does this work? And I tried radical safety, because radical means the antithesis
Roots.
of conventional.
Yeah.
Right. And my audience were engineers and PhDs. And I was talking about the emotional buzz, and they're going, what?
What? Well, that was challenging.
Well, some ideas just don't work. So we stay in that mode, and patience comes up again. Just stay in that mode. Does this work? Does this work? Does this work? So you take action, and radical safety was an action that I took to say, well, maybe this will be an avenue. And I was just, I heard this saying the other day, if you want to get wet, stand in front of a tidal wave, right? And right now, the tidal wave, which is coming at us, is the next level remote learning. Making sure that these online courses, by and large, are boring. They're not fun. They're not funny.
That's right. That's right.
They're not experiential in nature. They're not energetic. They're just almost like, if you don't sign off, you get fired. It's like, so okay, I'll take the course. So I've developed a new company called Rapid Professional Development.
Nice.
And our slogan is called Accelerate Growth Anywhere. So accelerate's part of the brand. Accelerating growth is what I do, and then anywhere. And so this new company is the next on this path.
Nice.
And in the end, and we don't, Pat, we never arrive.
No, of course. I mean, that's why it's circular, right? You keep going around and around. And just one thing I want to say, Vince, is you're doing your company, and you probably already know this, but from a therapist point of view, okay, which I am, there's enough content out there forever. What people want and need is contact. So find some way to make it contactful, to give them a sense of community, of human to human, although it's not human, it's virtual. But, I get 854 invitations a day to some contactless content, and I don't want it. I'm not sure anybody wants it. To your point, it's boring. It's not funny. There's not a human person there that I can push off. I can make a joke with. So throw in some contact.
Well, you're right. And those are two elements I skipped over, but shouldn't. We've integrated two things. One is that instead of when the user uses the LMS, the learning management system, typically they have to answer a multiple choice thing. Well, what's the contact there? What we have in our programs is they have to send back a video. of how they retain the information. So now this video comes back to the manager, the person that owns that meeting. And so then that creates a conversation, which they have with their superior. And the second piece is we have something called lunch and learns, which it's not hands-on for us. I mean, we set them up, we teach them how to fish kind of, and then have them do these lunch and learns. And it creates this dialogue in a virtual setting so that they don't have to be together. But if they can be, of course, they would do it together.
Sure.
So anyway, those are two elements that we've added in. To your point, that if it's a sterile, antiseptic, non-connected solution, like if it's one way, which all of them seem to be, it's just one-way communication.
Right.
Eat this, eat this, eat this. It's like, oh my God.
Or don't eat this, or don't. Exactly.
Right.
I mean, yes. And I'm a big believer in groups and small groups talking. And having a small group sharing, getting to know each other. Of course, I would be.
Well, that's in your DNA.
It's in my DNA for sure. So you've started this, and you've written this great book, Earthquake, is help me understand. Earthquake is a way of handling those unintended, horribly demonstrative in our lives experiences.
Yeah, we all have personal earthquakes. We're all seeking to, break through from this setback.
Right.
And I, as you know, there's a gazillion books printed a year. So what I attempted to do was similar to the ant and the elephant, but I wrote a parable. And my mission with the book was to make it Pixar worthy, meaning the storyline would stand alone. Like you just can't put the book down because the story is engaging enough. I mean, they go through an earthquake, and then all these trials and tribulations happen to the two main characters. There's villains. There's the hero. The hero dies. Did he die? And all these things. Well, then what happened next? So to have the story, it's called Story Forward. To have a book that's a parable, that's entertaining, to have content, to have the reader go, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way, to have something so unique that is a different approach to personal earthquakes that many of those books are maybe in a clinical fashion. Yeah. Or, Malcolm Gladwell does some great writing. I always walk away from his books going, so what do I do? I get it, but what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to be how to infused into a story, infused into an experience. And there you go. So that's, it's done. It's coming out November 30th.
Good.
Depending on when people listen to this. It's, I couldn't be more excited about this book because it's just such a unique experience for the reader.
I love that. I love the marrying of personal development, of handling loss, which all those are,
right?
And with a Pixar, a nod to the Pixar parable. I mean, right. I mean, one thing that goes off in my mind is why couldn't this be for children as well, to help them through some of these things.
I've looked at, the ant and the elephant. I've been approached by a number of screenplay writers and that kind of thing. And we never really land on, I've never been impressed with what I've got yet so far. Mm-hmm. It's a timeless book. It's really kind of a classic in a way. I mean, it was quoted by LeBron James in Sports Illustrated. And the Dalai Lama just gave me an endorsement for the earthquake. So,
my gosh, how did you get to him?
I was in India, so I figured, and I met the guy who knew a guy, and I went, oh, okay.
Wow. What a risk taker you are. Hi, let's go see the Dalai Lama.
Why not?
That's wonderful. Right. Gosh. I love that. So, okay. So it's a parable. So just give me a little bit more content about it. So I want to whet my appetite here.
Think about the ratio of the ant and the elephant first. Imagine the ant being on the back of an elephant. It doesn't see elephant. You don't see You don't even, aware of the subconscious mind at all. Right. So you can be on the back of the elephant marching west going, I've got willpower. I've got decision-making capabilities. I know what I'm doing. I've been there before. I've got drive. I've got determination. I'm going west. And so you start marching west, right? And what if the elephant is headed east? Right? You're thinking you're going west, but you're ending up east going, how did I end up here again? So, this whole thing with the ant and the elephant is the foundation of understanding that it isn't until you have alignment with your conscious intention and ensuring that the subconscious agenda is pointed in the same direction so that you got 2,000 neurons and 4 billion neurons headed in the same direction.
Right. And that alignment is achieved in what way are you suggesting?
Testing, patience. Does this work? Curiosity, creativity. And there's certain setbacks in the book that happen to the main characters, the ant and the elephant. They have names. They're a deer and Elgo, the elephant. And a deer is almost stubborn in a way that he keeps thinking, I've got this. And his mentor, Brio, kind of, as a good mentor will kind of go, I guess you're going to need to figure this out on your own because you're not listening to me. And so these setbacks start to happen. And there's one metaphor in there about the cactus and the vine, right? The cactus is going to set roots and just establish survival mode, and it's going to be prickly and it's going to protect itself and be in this kind of cactus existence. Versus the vine, which is curious. It seeks the light. It says, well, where is it over here? Is it over here? Does this work? Does this work? Does this work? And so this cactus versus vine mentality is one of the earlier learnings they have along the way. Yeah. And then they go through, there's another part of the book where I call it the mud flats, right? And it can be just hard. This thing called life.
Sticky. Hard.
It's sticky and stuck. And then you try certain things. And so they try to get through this mud flats by innovating, right? How about this idea? We put little slats under our feet. Well, the slats stuck in and they can't get out of the mud flats. And it's exhausting. Scott Peck's book, A Road Less Traveled. I hated his opening line for years and years until I realized he was right.
That often happens. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What does he know?
What does he know? Yeah.
Anyway, so life is the opening line. Life is a struggle. I went, it doesn't have to be that way. No, I would push back. I got this. And it's just like, damn it. This struggle part is really going to be part of the existence. And as much as our conscious mind on the back of the elephant says it's not that way, we're going to be hobbled. We're going to be, until we can grasp the contradiction between, the subconscious mind is really going to take us in the direction until we engage that. And turning that around is patience, being able to be very, very clear on what I call the emotional buzz, which is that tension between aspirational and the tension of uncertainty, and anxiety, if you will. But that sweet spot of motivation, as you put it, that's really a great way to put it. Find that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And you're in the midst of a massive breakthrough. And then some people will give you advice like, just don't think about it. And it's like, okay, wait, I got a knife in my leg, and your advice is not to think about the knife in I got a knife in my leg.
No.
So that can be
interestingly enough. I mean, I'm sure we're talking in parallel ways with different words, but one of the things that I write about in Self-Sabotage is that you have to understand the subconscious is that it's been programmed so early that you don't remember it, of course. And that there are literal permissions from your past that are offsetting your conscious decisions. And if you don't bring those up, that's where you get curious. If you don't see that, hey, in my family, everybody dies at age 50. And I believe that because that's what I've heard over and over and over. You start getting to 49 and you start feeling bad. It's not because you have to, but because this permission from your past has reared its head. And that many times with success, that we hit this emotional glass ceiling. It's not from anybody else. It's our own creation. And that's what I would call when we hit the lack of permission, and that we have to break through that. And we have to find a new way of integrating, of aligning between our conscious and the unconscious or the subconscious, which is something we've believed about ourselves, but isn't necessarily true, nor does it have to be true.
Nor does it have to be true. And the fact, again, is you'll gravitate towards that which you believe to be true. The tricky part is what's true below the surface, right? And you
have to bubble it up, right?
What?
I mean, that's what the earthquakes do. They bubble that up. And then it goes bonk, now, whoa, gosh, I see that. All right. And then you can do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting being in this position of giving advice, speaking at events, writing books. This is my 8th book. And then I had to go, well, wait a minute, what am I missing? Like I thought I had really thought this is my sandbox. Of course I knew. And it was like, wow. So not that I needed any more humbling because I'm married to Michelle. She takes care of that when I come home. But,
well, one of the great quotes about marriage, it's a way of a good marriage is a way of creating friction.
Way of creating
not
friction.
love, but friction.
Well, and Michelle as well, and this whole thing about
Lovely
strong women, and they're really a fun little experiment. Our marriage is now 25 years, so the experiment's working. But boy, she wants her way all the time. She definitely is, kind of wants her way all the time, but she doesn't want to be married to a pushover, right? So that friction just shows up all the time, and it takes a lot of self-confidence in that. And I will add something. You mentioned that ceiling. It's funny. I like to term it the level of deservability.
Well, I talked about your deserve level. I think we're talking about the same thing. Yeah,
I think we are, because this comfort zone is something that people can get, and they can expand their comfort zone. But there's a way to expand your level of deservability to have a higher level of the low level of deservability is easy. You kind of go, that's unacceptable. I won't, that's a boundary. I'm not going to deal with that. But the upper level of deservability, where the ceiling is of success, that's one that kind of goes, wait a minute, I've got one too. And that, so this book is autobiographical, although it's about an ant and the elephant in the savannah. But I could correlate almost every story in there. The vultures that show up, there's a wolf named Chromia that is just after you. I mean, so and it's the classic hero's journey,
Yes.
which we all are experiencing, whether we like it or not.
Exactly.
And so, so it really is on so many levels. A book that can be consumed. I'm just so excited to share it with people. And when the publisher said we're launching it November 30th, and that was almost a year ago, and I went, what? The book's done.
What?
So here I've been excited for a year. It's coming up.
How fun to be excited for a year. And to your point, I just want to share a thing that I have written about deserve level. And I think every one of us has a level to which we believe we deserve. And if we want to have more in our life, we have to raise our deserve level. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have to change some of our beliefs, maybe enhance self-esteem and embolden self-confidence, but for sure work on the permissions from our past, because that's the unconscious, subconscious block, to your deserve level. And if you get more than you believe you deserve, you'll do one of two things. You'll either embrace it and raise yourself up, or you'll give it away. You'll self-sabotage. And even the great Oprah talks about this. She talks about how she can't keep weight off. It's because she says, I get to a level that I'm not comfortable at, a lower weight. And so I sabotage myself. She didn't use that word, but I did.
That's what it is.
And I put it back on. And she said, I won't ever diet again until I understand the psychological reasons why I can't keep this weight off. So it's an interesting, we haven't talked about this, but we're doing parallel paths here, I think, and talking about similar things in different ways. But,
I'm not surprised. I mean, and lead the way, because I'm a sponge. The more you talk, the more I learn. So thank you.
Well, I believe, and that's what our mutual friend Peter, that's what he hired me for, because I go across Canada with Century 21 and I'd up their deserve level and he'd make more money. He goes, I love you. Come on, keep coming back, But it's an unconscious, subconscious belief system that we all have to work on. And what also happens, to your point, is that when we have an earthquake, our deserve level, which we may have taken for granted at this level, can go, because now we can't control something. Now we're not the masters of the universe we thought we were. So now, we have to realign, reassess, and buy your book. Buy the book.
It can, and to those people experiencing that right now, it's so frustrating to come to terms with the notion, I have to do this again. I have to start over. Would you go back to being age 12? Would you go back to being age 22? It's like, no. I mean, that was like creating yourself. Yeah, sure, it had its time, but no, I don't want to go through that. I've earned my place. Well, wait, we are all going to have to reinvent or re-experience or rebuild that anything that starts with and it's going to be
restart.
It's going to be part of the human experience.
Well, I think the pandemic was a grand earthquake for the whole world. And that alone is why your book is so timely, because some people have made the most of it. Some people, the rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide are astronomical. So, it's time. It's time for us to take on these earthquakes, whether they be in our conscious control or not our control. We have a conscious ability to respond. We are in charge of our response, not the event, but our response. That's where we have the power. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The book. I wondered how to end it, and I don't give away the ending, but it's I will. I mean, it ends on the concept of hope. Right?
Good.
It's not arriving at the next oasis, which is what the first book, The Ant and the Elephant, is about. Because we're so chauvinistic about goals, and people here. I was in the Olympic Games. First question all the time, especially in the U.S., by the way, is did you win? Right? Did you win? I have in-laws that still think I've won the gold medal in the Olympic Games. Right? And it's this default that you just have to arrive. You have to win. You have to be at that highest podium. Yeah. And
I heard a phrase the other day that I loved. It said, "When you're young, it's work, 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 work. As you mature, it's work, play, work, play, work, play. When you reach the really sweet spot, it's play, 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 play." And I think there's some truth in that. I do. Because you can play at work, or, you obviously love what you do. I love what I do. And that's play for me. When you were having a good time, you're playing. I'm having a fun time in the sandbox with you right now. So It's play.
So, well, that's and play is a direct correlation to results. By the way,
good to know.
When an athlete is having fun, they do better.
Yeah.
They just do better. When an athlete is wound up and say, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? They don't.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Unless they're lucky. There's I forget his name, the Australian speed skater. And he just kept advancing in these rounds in the Olympics in, I think it was Korea. I can't remember, but he ends up in the gold medal round. He didn't belong there because he's not the fastest speed skater, but he's the one that didn't fall because he was so far back to all the people, fighting and not having, that not fun part of speed short track. And then sure enough, in the final run, Apollo Ono and all these others fall. and Steve ends up, this Australian speed skater ends up winning the gold medal. And he's now got a speaking thing called The Last Man Standing. So,
he literally skated on through, right?
He's having a blast. He's Australian. So
I love that. Well, Vince Poscente, the new book is called The Earthquake, and it is out November 30th, correct? Am I being correct about all this?
November 30th, The Earthquake, Your Journey from Setback to Breakthrough, comes out November 30th. And you can pre-order it now so that you'll be really surprised that you ordered a book.
When it comes. Oh, my God.
When it comes.
What made me do this? No, we're going to put this on so people have some time to do it. So, Vince, Thank you so much. You're such a nice and lovely and charming man, and I appreciate you being on with me. Thank you.
Well, Pat, when I found out about this, it was an immediate yes. So it's a treat to be with you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can find more episodes and all of our other Hot Pie Media originals baked fresh daily at our home online at hotpiemedia.com, the Hot Pie Media YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts.